Welcome to the Big Dog Crypto Podcast. This is your number one crypto podcast to hear directly from the movers and shakers, innovators, and disruptors in the cryptocurrency industry. Follow on Twitter for updates and to communicate directly at Woof Big Dog. That's at Woof Big DAWG. Now, here is your host, the one and only Big Dog Crypto.
Digital Bits is a protocol layer blockchain focused on supporting consumer digital assets. This is inclusive of assets such as loyalty and reward points, branded NFTs, fan tokens, and notably branded stablecoins. Find Digital Bits on Twitter at DigitalBitsORG. Digital Bits, making the future happen today. And welcome to the newest episode of the Big Dog Crypto Podcast. I'm your host, Big Dog Crypto, and we have the one and only George from Cryptos Are Us. George, how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. I mean, this is of all the days to have you on. What about today in BTC action? What are your thoughts?
You know what? A lot of fearful retail investors right now. That's for sure. A lot of people are panicking. There's a lot of FUD in the media, and a lot of it, quite frankly, doesn't make any sense. Right now, the narrative is China is kicking out all the Chinese miners and forcing them out of the country. And that's actually fantastic news. I don't know how it's being spun as a bad thing, but for Bitcoin, you know, as a whole, being decentralized and open source, non-sovereign, all these kind of things that really back Bitcoin and why people enjoy it, right? This goes towards that. The less miners you have in one country, especially China, the better. And most of them are looking into moving into the US. So this is actually fantastic news, but it's being spun as a very, very bad thing. So it's quite confusing.
Would you say, though, that the institutions, I mean, look, they see the news just like we do. And, you know, they're there on the sidelines waiting to buy. And you look at all the trading desks getting in. I mean, wouldn't you say that, or would you agree that they definitely take advantage of this?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. There's, unfortunately, a lot of these institutional buys and even buys from, say, Michael Saylor, they're not very transparent. Although Michael Saylor tells you after the fact, but most institutions and most Wall Street hedge funds, VCs, if they're buying, it's OTC market. We have very little data about that. But the little data that we have that could be tracked through, say, CryptoQuant or Glassnode or any of these analytic companies shows that there are massive buying. There are massive outflows from the exchanges, the ones specifically dealing in the OTC market. So there is proof that they're definitely buying. And I just saw a chart yesterday about breaking up like the buys of retail investors with long-term investors with whales. And the whales, they're accumulating. The number of BTC in their wallets are increasing, while retail has dropped off dramatically within the last few weeks, obviously because of what's going on. But the big boys, they're accumulating. They know Bitcoin's not going to go away, and this is their really one last shot to get things cheap.
You were one of the first people, because I love your program and I watch it all the time. And you were one of the first people, if I recall, to bring up the fact that, obviously now, you had retail and you still do, and institutions are in there. But you made the comment before, if I recall, about on Saturdays, particularly Saturday evenings in the States and it'll be overnight as you're starting in Europe, that the whales can still take a little bit of their power, right? And kind of play their games, I guess, and obviously there maybe lessened a bit as it was, but when did you first notice that?
You mean like the whole whale games that's been going on, or is that
but particularly on the weekends? Because if I recall, I think you made a comment about that you had noticed on the weekends a lot of times that they were doing that.
Yeah, I think it's natural to do it over the weekends, even though crypto is traded 24/7 worldwide. For the most part, weekend activity is still low, like volume is low. That's because traders, average Joes, they're out with their family doing whatever. They're just doing less trading. And when there's less volume, it's easier to drive things up or down. So I don't think it's a surprise that a lot of the volatility we see are over the weekend, because things could be driven down or up, much easier than, say, during the normal weekdays.
Right, and they definitely do that. So let me ask you this. So your channel, now you've been around for a while. When did you first get the idea to start your YouTube channel?
So give you a little quick history. I first got into Bitcoin in 2013, and actually just learned about it. I was in IT, but I got really wrecked in the 2008 housing bubble because I used to invest in stocks. I got wrecked because of it. I didn't pay attention to anything investment-wise, financial-wise, until 2013, tail end of 2013, when I started hearing about Bitcoin. I'm like, wow, this is the greatest thing ever, because it's digital money that you can create with basically a digital money tree. Like if you build a mining machine, you could literally mine money. So I got in. Unfortunately, I got in at the peak. I started mining Litecoin at that time. Got out after about 3-4 months, but I learned a lot during that time. Unfortunately, not enough. I didn't believe in enough, so I panic sold. Got out of the market until 2017, when I noticed that it came back and started heading higher. So I got back in 2017, and I realized that the same number of people in 2017 that was like me, they came in, they really didn't understand a lot of things, and I I educated myself already years ago, so I started answering questions and helping people along. And I did this on Quora, which is a popular Q&A site. Then I realized that there's just a need for this. There's not a whole lot of crypto experts, so to speak. So I decided to just expand out, build on my website. And I never really wanted to get into YouTube at all, because I don't think I have the personality or anything for it. But people are like, hey, you got to try it. So I started my channel, September 2017. And it really took off, and I've been doing it since then.
So when it comes to content creation, I mean, look, I'm on my first few podcasts, right? Getting started, and it's definitely some work, but I enjoy it. You do 2 streams a day, and I think most days of the week, or is it every day?
It's every day.
And I watch you like on Saturday night, and I've watched you on, it's you have got to be one of the more intensive content creators. What is the thing that you think people that want to get into the space, right? They want to start content creation. What do they need to know before they do that?
YouTube is like, I would say it's the easiest thing to get into, but it's also the hardest thing to continue on with. It really takes a lot of dedication. You have to have the passion, dedication, and there's so much grind. Just to give you an example, when I started my channel in 2017, it was when things were really hot for Bitcoin. So my channel took off. I built 40,000 subscribers within a matter of months, so 3 months. So things were really good until they weren't. So when Bitcoin started coming down, most people left, and my channel was just stagnant. I stayed at 40,000 subscribers for basically 3 years. 3 years. During that time, not a whole lot of people wanted to hear me talk about the future of Bitcoin and crypto and the importance of dollar cost averaging and hodling, and people just don't want to hear it. But I built a loyal fan base that stuck with me, so my views were like 3,000-4,000 consistently every video, and I used to stream once a day. So it's a grind. I could have very easily just called it quits. I was not making hardly anything from these videos. 3,000 or 4,000 views on YouTube does not earn you much. It's like $30. Okay. So to put things in perspective, and for me to be spending hours a day to stream, I'm actually, you will argue that I would be doing better off if I didn't stream and just did something else and worked at a job. Right. But I kept going with it. And I quit my job. Actually, I didn't quit. I got fired in 2017 for my job, for my IT job. I had a 6-figure job in 2017. I got fired, so I went to full time with YouTube and Cryptos R Us. So luckily, I did make a substantial amount in 2017. So I was living off of that for quite some time. So 2018, Even when the channel wasn't doing well, I was okay. I didn't have to go get a job. But it was around 2018. I'm like, you know what? I like YouTube, right? Crypto's not doing hot. Let me start another channel. So I started Drivers Only, which is a car review channel. And I built that up. And it took me about a year until 2019, until Drivers Only took off. So then I used that to really just, keep me going. I was making good money with that channel. And then Cryptos Are Us kept going and kept going and kept going. I'm like, I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to lose out on this once again. Right. So it was both ways. It was like, it was a way to keep me in the game. It was a way to keep me motivated because I had thousands of fans that kept tuning in, and I feel like I can't give up on them. And if I do, then I give up on myself too, because I did lead the market in 2014 before, and that was just a horrible decision. And I just kept with it and kept mining or buying at that time. I would be much better off, right? So, long story short, I know that was a long explanation, but going now, things have picked up quite a bit, more so with crypto than my car channel. But honestly, for content creators, you have to keep going and going and going. There's some people that, they do really well right away. But for most people, and I've done a lot of research into it, you have to provide great content that people will want to watch. And you have to just keep going and going and going and going, because sometimes you just keep going for a year or two and you may not have any traction at all until you do. And then it all becomes worth it.
I mean, it's a lot of work to make it happen. And I mean, 2 a day, that's a lot. You bring it up when you were in originally to now. I've heard some people say that this year is like 2013. Some say it's like 2017. Do you think it's like one or the other, a hybrid or something different? When you look at the charts, the way the beginning of the year and going into the fall, what would you compare it to?
I mean, there's a lot of similarity. If you're looking at certain like on-chain metrics or patterns of Bitcoin's price movement, there's similarities. You can find similarities everywhere. In 2013, there was also a massive drop in the middle, kind of like what we're seeing now. 2017 was more linear, but still there was a lot of dips, like 30 to 40% dips. So there's similarities, but history doesn't always repeat, but it tends to rhyme, right? That's the famous quote. So I think that's what we're seeing. We're seeing a lot of similarities. But the biggest thing I like to concentrate on is, first of all, if you look at the existence of Bitcoin, 12 years, there's been a lot of volatility, but it always continues forward because all the advantages I mentioned before, being, decentralized, non-sovereign, no country controls it, no entity controls it. There's something about that draws in a lot of people. The distrust in banks and governments and the Fed and everyone else. There's something really, really appealing about that. But here's the thing. Even though there's similarities, you can't always judge the future by the past. But I look at what has happened within the last 4 years, and especially what's happening right now. We're now hearing about countries fully embracing and adopting Bitcoin. We know El Salvador have made the first step. They're transitioning and making Bitcoin into a legal tender. But we know that they're not going to be the only ones. There's going to be more countries that's going to follow. That has never happened before in Bitcoin's history, ever. So this is the first time. And then, of course, since 2020, now we have the new Bitcoin Jesus, I like to call him, Michael Saylor, that continues to do well and continues to buy and buy and hodl and buy and hodl Bitcoin. And he started something. He started a revolution where public trade companies are now thinking about doing the same thing. So these things didn't happen in 2017 or 2013, right? And now we have institutions like Mass Mutual, 100-plus-year-old institution that also committed to Bitcoin. And we have big Wall Street, financial gurus that is buying Bitcoin to hedge against inflation. These are all things that were only dreamt of before, but now is coming true. So that's what I'm focused on. That's why I'm so bullish on Bitcoin, because I see these things only growing as we move forward. And back before even 2017, still mostly just speculation. Now, all the speculation, all the things that we talked about before is now coming true. And that's very exciting.
So when you look at Bitcoin's price at the end of this year, would you want to speculate or look at an amount you think it could be at the end of this year, and then after the next halving, kind of a price guess or speculation at those 2 points?
Yeah, I mean, I get called out all the time because of bad price predictions, but I honestly believe Bitcoin will be above six figures by the end of this year. I do anticipate that what we're seeing right now, hovering in the 30s, I think we may see in this range between 30 and 40 for maybe a few months. And then I see things really picking up again once we get past all this FUD and naturally because we're coming to the end of this 4-year cycle, which traditionally is the most bullish. So I'd say, around September, October, we're going to really see Bitcoin's price move up. So I think we're still on track for over 100,000 for Bitcoin, right? And, the exciting thing is this may be a super cycle, meaning that traditionally in the past, Bitcoin has always followed a 4-year cycle because of the halving event, which will still happen. There's going to be another one in 2024. But because of all the things I've just said about countries and institutions and companies that are buying into Bitcoin that are not selling, and retail investors, I would argue, are getting smarter and also not selling. I think the combination of these things could drive Bitcoin much higher and keep going beyond this year. So in 2022, we could continue to see a rise.
So, of course, you saw El Salvador legalize Bitcoin. What country could you see legalizing it next?
I think a lot of Latin American countries are looking into it. The countries that have real financial instability, where their fiat is just literally garbage. We have seen that with Venezuela and other countries where the amount of paper and fiat to buy toilet paper is more than the toilet paper itself. You'd rather just wipe your butt with the fiat dollars, right? Like in countries like that, which exist, for its citizens, there's no reason to hold more fiat. It's just ridiculous. You want to convert that to something that won't do that. So Bitcoin is a natural transition for a lot of these countries because, first of all, it's non-sovereign. So you think about it, if you're Venezuela or you're Paraguay or any other country, Brazil, you might not want to adopt the USD because it's controlled by the US. But what about a currency or digital money or store of value that's not controlled by any country? That's very appealing in itself, right? So, and the fact that it doesn't depreciate into nothing, right, is also very appealing. So I say a lot of countries that has financial woes, instability with their currency, they're all looking into Bitcoin. I think El Salvador is really pushing the envelope like what Michael Saylor did with MicroStrategy. And I think what they do will be at the forefront and pretty much like lead all these other countries. I think a lot of Latin American countries, even African countries, are probably looking into it.
I would agree with you on that. Absolutely. Speaking of countries or to go to another planet, Elon Musk and Dogecoin. Do you think he has one of the top 5 wallets?
You know what? I've heard someone, I forgot who told me this, that there's some other guy that looked at one of the top wallets and looked at the message or something, and it had like 420 and some other like numbers that Elon likes. So it could be that he owns one of the top wallets. It could very well be that. I don't know for sure, but yeah. So it could be he could be holding one of them.
So and I always like to ask all my guests, what's your favorite country you've been to, and what's the one country you want to go to?
Ooh, I've been to a lot of countries. I like to travel. I plan on traveling a lot more in the future. I visited Europe, much of Europe when I was a teenager, so I didn't have as much fun. I was with my parents. But in my adult life, I have traveled to Asia, Hong Kong, Taiwan, China also. A lot of places in the U.S., but and Mexico. But I like to travel everywhere. I like to. I haven't gone to Hawaii yet. I'd like to go to Hawaii, check it out. I do want to go back to Europe and just check out all the famous places. And I like to go back to Asia too. So yeah, I plan on visiting a lot of countries. But as for a favorite one, I don't really have a favorite one. I think anytime you go out of the U.S., in my opinion, like anywhere in the U.S. is very similar because you have the same box stores, kind of same personality, same thought process. But when you visit outside the U.S., it's very different. The cultural, differences is vast, especially if you go to a country that doesn't understand English, right? That's a big thing. So I don't have any favorite ones, but I do like to travel.
Yeah, that's one of the things I always say is that, the markets never sleep. I mean, if you look when it's about 8 or 9 o'clock in New York, it's already early evening in Europe. And then let's say you crash out, right? And the next thing you know, your phone goes off middle of the night and then Asia's gotten started and there's all kind of activity going on. So really the markets are 24/7 without question. They just never sleep at this point.
Yeah, it is. I get very little sleep these days.
So when you're not working, right? When you're not recording and whatnot, what do you have on in the background? Is it music or podcast or movies or TV? Like, what do you normally have on while you're working?
Yeah, I do a lot of work on my computer in front of this desk right here in this office. I spend like 10, 12 hours every single day. So not only do I, research stuff for my 2 streams, but right now I'm working on other things such as my website, cryptosareus.com, which has been really dormant for a long time. So I have a team of writers now that's helping me write, and I have to manage that. Also, right now I'm planning for a big Vegas conference, which I'm going to call GeorgeCon 2021. And this is the first time I'm holding a conference. So I'm planning it out, trying to get all the projects to get involved, speakers, ticketing, event planning, all that stuff. I'm working on that as well. And in addition to that, I have a ton of emails every single day, new projects that want to work with me. I have to look into them and decide whether they're good enough to work with. And in addition to that, I do run a Patreon group. So Patreon group, I have members that are talking among themselves, collaborating, but they also need my help. And I'm also giving them exclusive content at least once a week. So there's that going on too. So among that, sometimes I still work on my car channel as well. I'm not as active on that right now, especially since cars are less. The views for cars is less because everyone's home and they're working from home. They don't really need to shop for a car. So I'm working on that as well. So with everything, yeah, I spend a lot of time. I really don't have time for TV. Sometimes just at night for sports or something, but I rarely watch TV, and I just, turn on some, I still use Pandora. I haven't moved to Spotify. Just turn on some Pandora and just work.
Okay, so let everybody know where they can find you on social media.
Everywhere is cryptosareus.com. My YouTube channel, Twitter, I think I have an underscore because someone took that name before me. But if you search cryptosareus, you'll still find it. Same thing, I'm all over on Twitter, which I'm most active on, Facebook, Instagram, which I'm growing, even TikTok now. I'm trying to get into that. Of course, I have my website, cryptosareus.com, which, there's 2-3 articles every day, and you can learn about current news and altcoins. And of course, my channel, which is also Cryptosareus. So that's on YouTube.
Well, George, once again, I want to thank you for coming on the Big Dog Crypto Podcast. Greatly appreciate it. It means a lot. Thank you. Okay, I'm your host, Big Dog Crypto, and you have been watching the latest episode of the Big Dog Crypto Podcast. All right, brother. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
You've been listening to the Big Dog Crypto Podcast. Follow on Twitter at WoofBigDog. Woof, big DAWG. And run faster than the competition. Woof, woof.